I'm giggling because if you and I live together, you would say Alicia does laundry every day because I do, but it's usually the same load because I forgot that I I did the load and then I go down the next day and I was like, God, I didn't move it over to the dryer. So my current load, which is hilarious that you brought this up, has been washed 3 times, and you just reminded me that I rewashed it yesterday, and it's
Is
still
it
sitting
still in
in
the
the washer.
washer? Is it still in
Yeah,
the washer? Oh, see, my load
yeah.
for today is down in the dryer.
Mine's been in there probably since Sunday, if I'm being honest. And ladies and gentlemen, it's Thursday.
This is On Call.
House would be really cool to just wear scrubs all the time. Then you don't have to think about what you're going to wear to work.
That is awesome.
We're here to answer your questions.
We can sit down and discuss all. Wait, I gotta go. I'm on call.
Wait, you're on call? I thought I was on call.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of On Call with April and Alicia. I'm April.
And I'm Alicia.
How's it going, Alicia?
Yeah, it's going, April. How are things going with you?
I'm good. Just keeping
Yeah.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah, we're shifting into the new year. Things have definitely started to speed up a little bit. I know we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but you've got a puppy that's not feeling so well. How's Baxter doing?
I do. I know he's okay, but he's doing this weird breathing thing every now and then, so he's freaking us all out. So I don't know
Oh,
what his deal is, but I have a call out to the vet and I sent a video over so he can see it.
that's like
So
the wonders of technology, right?
I know. I was like, oh, let me just videotape you real quick while you're doing this really strange thing, and then I can email it over.
It was funny for listeners earlier. We were like, "Hey, are we going to be able to record? Are we not going to be able to record?" April's got a sick dog, and of course, we prioritize that's members of our family. And she's like, "No, everything's fine." Like I sent a video, and the vet's mobile too, so they'll come here. And I was like, "Oh, it must be nice." So
It is super nice. My vet is mobile, so he comes right to the house with his big van and does everything right here. Like Baxter had to have surgery, I don't know, like 6 months or a year ago, and they did it right outside my house. And then
Are
he
you
carried him.
kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. No, he has like a generator and they do anesthesia and all that right in the van. He's like got a little clinic there and does surgeries, and then he carries him into the house for me and tucks him in and then gives
Wow.
me his medicines right there. Like I don't have to go get medicines at the pharmacy or anything for him. I just get it right there at the vet. So
It's commitment to the cause, folks. So we can never say you never have an excuse for missing anything, at least not with your pets. Now, if only we could get our pediatricians to do that, that would be great.
I know.
Pediatricians could just show up to the house and carry our kids back in when we're done.
Yeah, there
when we're
is
done
like
dealing with
a mobile primary care in my area. Actually, it's the person that I used to work with as a hospitalist at Frederick. He started his own kind of mobile primary care
for adults, for kids.
for adults. Yeah,
Oh,
so
interesting.
he can go, same thing, has a van. He can go and see people at their houses and stuff. So
It's almost like concierge medicine, you know.
yes, I think he does it
That
kind of like
concept a little bit.
concierge. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I always go right into it like a darker space though. Like what if things go wrong?
I know.
There's something about the environment, like even the office environment, which I admittedly outside of just clinicals didn't spend a ton of time in office, but just like the protection of like I know where this is and I know where these items are should I need to support a patient in a different way. I just wonder how you get all of that either in your car or a van or something to make sure you've got all the right things. That would make me nervous. But
I know.
I'd love the service.
Yeah, I mean it's super convenient, but I agree. I think that also just comes from working in the hospital for so many years where we have everything at our fingertips, right? So something goes wrong, we can handle it. So being outside of that environment would be weird for me.
Right. But do you think it like encringes just a little bit? Like, I don't know. With Baxter, we're talking about Baxter, even, if there was like this magical pediatrician that showed up for your house, like we're doing it because we're working remotely, right? And for the most part, we're home and being home is, it's convenient for our jobs, but I think it maybe lends towards a little bit of what we wanted to talk about today about work-life balance, and is that really balance? I mean, it helps, but is this really a work-life balance to have your vet coming to your house and doing surgeries outside of your house so that you can continue to prioritize work? Or, I don't know. It'd be interesting as we delve into this topic.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It is interesting. I mean, it's super convenient. The day he had surgery, I worked while he was in
Yeah, I'm
surgery,
sure.
and I didn't have to go anywhere and like wait in the vet's office, and try to work from there. So it was nice. But
What, like in that buzzword context, because we hear that everywhere. I feel like we're always hearing new buzzwords, and work-life balance certainly isn't a new buzzword, but something that we're hearing a lot more organizations start to tackle, address. It, like, in your opinion, why do you think we're even talking about it right now? Like, what are you experiencing in the APP lane at Sound, or what do you think the benefit of talking about having this conversation is?
yeah, I think it's the benefit, I think, is that it does impact a lot of people, right? I think that there are people who are working at home, which, it does make it hard, I think, to turn it off, right? Like, because if you're working from home, your work is always there, right? So you
Right.
could, you could work through the evening, you could put your kids to bed, and then you can work when they go to bed. And so I think one thing is just more virtual working and remote working is kind of offset that balance for people, which I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that even before that, if people had balance, like,
Right.
so I think it probably exacerbated um, the issue. And, I mean, there's a
When you
lot of
say
people that,
before that, are you talking about like before the pandemic,
yeah, like
before
before
what?
COVID, before people started working
Yeah.
more remotely,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I
Right.
don't even know
Right.
that it was balanced then. I mean, there's a lot of
Sure.
people that we work with that have small kids or even if they don't have small kids, they have grown kids, but they're running around for sporting events or, other events at school and things like that. And it's hard to find that balance to make sure that when you're home, you're fully engaged with your family and doing what you need to do at home, but also at work, you're fully engaged in work and doing what needs to be done there. And I don't know that
Right.
people always have that balance right.
And I think you're right. I think there was somewhere I read that, prior to the pandemic, so 2019, in that time, there's something like 26% of our work was taken home, just generically. And then after the pandemic, 40% of our work was still happening at, like, by 10 o'clock at night. We were still on our computers at home completing work, and we were spending what, 10 hours a day at home, still
Yeah.
doing productive things, but a little bit more time than what we were even getting in the office spaces. Or I guess we couldn't really translate this clinically because we didn't remote clinically necessarily, but um, from an admin perspective, yeah, like we ended up working more.
Yeah. Well, and I think back to, the days when I was in early hospital, PA working in hospital medicine, and there was days where, I would see all my patients, I would start all my notes, things like that. But then there was stuff that I finished at home, right? I finished on my documentation or things like that. And that's not a balance. I'll tell you the one thing that the moment that I realized that this was an issue for me
Hmm.
and made me think about this was very early on in being in a leadership role. So I don't even know that I was officially like in a director role yet, but I was helping with all these APP committees in my region and nationwide at Sound. And it was my daughter's first day of school. And I had a call scheduled for the time I had to take her to the bus. And so I get on the call from my house and I say, oh yeah,
Mm.
today's the first day of school and whatever. So we're talking. And, while I'm on the call, I'm driving her down to the bus stop and waiting there. And the leader who was on with me at the time for the head of my region said to me, April, it's okay. We can run this call, without you, or we can reschedule, but you need to go be with your daughter right now. Cause he could hear me at the bus stop with all the people in the background.
Sure.
Right. And he said, you need to hang up the phone and go be with your daughter and focus on her because this is her first day of school. And this is something that you don't get back, right? You don't get those moments back with your kids. And I did. I hung up and, put her on the bus and everything was great. But I was so thankful in that moment that a leader in our organization was like, hey, go focus on
Hmm.
your family first, right now.
Right.
And it really kind of opened my eyes to the topic. So I think as I've grown in leadership, I've kept that moment in my head and always tried to make sure I had that balance.
Sure. I've always struggled with the term. work-life balance. And I guess
Yeah.
by definition, if somebody were just to say, hey, Alicia, what does work-life balance mean to you? And I don't look it up. I go 50-50, right? Immediately, I think 50-50. So it's like 50-50 work, or 50% work, 50% home life, that there's this perfect balance. And to me, that just doesn't seem attainable ever. um,
Well, I don't
you
think it
can't be
is. I mean, if
50-50
you think
parents,
about that way,
right?
yeah, it's not black and white, I don't think. And
Right.
it's funny that you say that because a new concept that's been coming about a little bit is more of this concept of like a work life integration, right? Because it's not just work that we
Mm-hmm.
have, right? Like we have work, which is our career, we have our
And work is part of
community.
our life.
Right,
Work is
right.
life. So you say, to me, it's like, not being devil's advocate all the time, but work life balance to me is like, well, work is life. So how it's part of my life. So how am I balancing what's already part of my, I don't know that that makes full sense to me. And also, I guess it doesn't offer solution. How do you balance work, which is part of your life,
Right.
perfectly to match your home? Like, I don't know. And maybe I'm getting just caught up in nomenclature, but I just, again, struggle with this. So this will be good to talk about.
Well, I think you have a point. I mean, this new concept kind of talks about just sort of balancing all of it, right? So you have your work, you have your community, if you're involved in your
Hmm.
community and you do things like, like my kids and I go do community service and there's things that we do. I coach, I was a Girl Scout leader. So there's things I do in my community. You have your home and your family. But then you also have yourself, right? Like you have your health, your well-being, like you taking care of yourself. And so I think the concept is kind of morphing into this thing where it's more just how do you integrate those four aspects of your whole life and figure out the balance that works best for you and your family and your career.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the, it's, I think for me, it's the word balance. And to me, and I don't know how you feel as a mom, I already feel stretched thin as
Yeah.
a colleague. I owe a lot of projects to my partners. I'm very invested in wanting to be a good colleague and a great partner. I want to be a great leader for my clinicians and my teams. And sometimes that carries over into my personal life a bit. And but I wonder if I put this hard stop up sometimes and neglect my work after, let's just say, 6 p.m. I turn all things off. I don't know that my balance is any better at home because now I'm just ruminating
Well, and
about,
you're worried about work. You're worried about what you didn't
yeah.
do at work.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
that
worried about who's
that never
affected.
ending to-do list.
Well,
Yeah.
correct. And I struggle with that part of the balance. I don't know fully how to deal with that. I think you and I have talked about this. We've worked together in leadership space for years, and I actually took a lot of cues from you on how to begin to turn off. But I feel guilt, and then you compound that guilt with that word again, balance.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel responsible for being able to identify how to balance. And the balance also feels like somebody's gonna get, you know what I mean? Somebody's gonna get impacted, or I'm gonna have to give a little bit more here. Like it's never gonna be favorable 50-50. So then I get the stress of the word balance. How do I balance it? And it's truly does come down to my responsibility to balance. It's not my employer's responsibility. But it is, I guess, maybe my employer's responsibility to identify or maybe help define what's priority to them, and maybe how I can function within their definition of, or maybe not definition, expectations of what they need from me as a clinician or as a colleague.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And I don't think that it's always a 50-50 balance every day. Like I think it's a fluid thing. There's some days where work has to take priority because there's a lot of things that need to be done. Then there's some days that a kid is really sick, right? And we have to be home for them and we have to focus on that. And so I don't think it's constantly the same. I think it's kind of a fluid thing that changes over time. But there are some things that I think really can contribute to this feeling of off balance or feeling like you're not
Hmm.
prioritizing things right. And some of it are things like lack of control. Like if you feel like you have a lack of control of the situation or your schedule, if you have unrealistic demands, right? Like I remember when I first started this leadership role, like I wanted to finish my to-do list every day or at least every week. And it's just not realistic. There's
Mhm.
just so much that
Mhm.
we have going, and not everything is a priority that has to be done right away, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there are certainly some things, if you have unsupportive relationships, like if you just don't have, at home or at work, and you don't have people that are supporting you and helping you, if you don't have the resources you need to get what you need done, like that also contributes because you feel like you need to do something. But if you're waiting on something from somebody else, or if you're waiting on to get something else on your computer or whatever it is, then you can't do it.
Mhm.
And that you feel how kind of helpless in that moment, and you're just kind of waiting, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Or if you don't have the skills that you need to do it, right? Like I think back to, when we were new APPs, and there was just some skills that we hadn't acquired yet. And so I would need help doing things, and, you have to kind of wait and get that help. And so that also can make you feel just that lack of control and off balance. And then high
Mhm.
stress levels too. Like when we're stressed, everything seems like such a bigger deal, because you're stressed out. So,
I would agree, and I would go back to the comment before about employers setting the tone. I remember a time, and you and I were working together, and there were times that, at least how I interpreted messaging coming from my leadership at that time was, if the phone rang, I picked it up. It didn't matter
yeah.
what time my leader was calling or my boss was calling. Like, work was work, and work was 24/7, and it was disruptive. It was just I could be in the middle of things with my kids, but I had been conditioned to believe that my job depended on me being fully accessible. And as employer, like, the one thing I've taken into my practice with my ambassador team has been really respecting, first of all, time zone, because we do work across the entire country. So East Coast is, it's not ideal to be calling somebody in Tacoma at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But at the same time that I'm, mindful of how I'm and what time zones I'm communicating, but also detaching and not expecting my team to communicate with me after business hours. If there's something that we, need to address, we'll try to address it within reasonable business hours. But if I set that pace or that tone, then it gives them a little more permission to detach. And I think sound has done that recently. I don't know if you've noticed in your emails, but if I am up working late, shocking, and I'm
You'd
sending an
never do that. What are you
email.
talking about?
What? Right? It's like, as we're
Do we
talking about
do that?
work-life balance, because I don't like the word. But if I'm up working late, I will go to send an email, and in our inbox now will say, "Do you want to send this now?"
Yes.
And it reminds me, why am I'm working for everybody else. So now, especially like in the age of notifications, we're already trying to disconnect from work, but our work is now tethered in our mobile devices. So your notification for your email goes off, and I'm sending it at 11:30 at night. And now I've woken a few people across the country up who feel compelled to answer because I sent it at 11:30. So just
Yes.
little tiny things that I think the organization, at least I've recognized, and this, again, you bringing this topic up was jogging my memory of what little things we've done.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
agree. I mean, I see it too, right? And I do try really hard to not work, outside of work hours, but um, there is this concept that if a leader from the organization is sending you an email after hours or on the weekend, you do feel compelled to respond, even though you're doing something. And so I'm very conscious about that too. Like, even if I want to type the emails because I'm working and I want to get it, in my queue, then I'll save all the drafts until like Monday morning or the next morning if it's at night. And
right,
then I send them during normal business hours so that people don't feel the need to respond to me, in off hours. So,
right, right. Oh, I like that.
yeah. Well, and I think there's some, particular challenges for, I feel like we always say working moms, but it could be any working parent, right? That things like, you're just trying to balance multiple responsibilities. You have that long list of things to do. We often, as a parent, tend to put other people's needs before your own, right? So you have to try to remember to take that time to prioritize yourself too. You got to work as a team. Like at my house, my
Mhm.
kids know we're a team, right? So if it's trash day, my kids pull the trash and they take it out to the curb, and one of them does that, the other one does the dishes. Like they get the mail every day. And these are just little things, but it it's another thing my husband or I would have had to do, right? And so we've trained them that we're a team and we function as a team, and there's very simple tasks that they can do regularly to help us out, which really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think other things too are, and these become more internal things that maybe we can manage, some things we can't manage. But my schedule to me is really a driving force for what my like mental state is by the end of the day. If I have any control of my schedule, I do try to, when I say balance, I try to lighten it a bit.
Yeah.
What work can be done, what communication can be done by quick phone call versus a meeting? What projects, how are we prioritizing projects? Are we doing are we balancing really high pressured projects with, slower paced projects so that we're not burning our teams out or burning ourselves out, or, last minute, are we setting reasonable deadlines? Are we setting reasonable expectations for ourselves? And for me, one of the hardest things is I'll book a entire day of calls, and I look at it and it feels like accomplished, but the same token, I'll feel like I got nothing done
Well,
because I
then you
didn't
have a
carve
whole
out
thing of
time.
email full of new emails
Correct.
to respond to.
You're
And
correct. That's what I'm saying. Like
you
new
didn't
emails,
click anything off your to-do
voicemails.
list. Yes.
Right.
Right.
The to-do list doesn't get done, but it's interesting because like the mentality is, it feels so fulfilling. I could go back and say, April, look, like I can prove how busy I was with all these meetings. But then I'm like, why are you working till 10 p.m.? It's just like I've got another 4 or 5 hours of work because I was creating, sometimes in some circumstances, work that wasn't necessary, or at least maybe not balancing my work
Yeah.
through the week in a way that could have been more effective.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also too, I mean, it helps to just make your time count, right? So you got that time that you're going to spend working if you want to, set a boundary. So I try to set a boundary to say, okay, 5 o'clock, I'm done, because I'm generally running out the door to some sort of practice or whatever it is. So I make that time, that I'm working until then, make it count, right? Like really make sure you're focusing, using the time in between calls to get things off that list done, checking those emails so that when you are done the day, you don't feel like you have more things to do, to finish your day, which is,
Agreed.
easier said than done some days, but, little things help. The other thing
Yeah.
too, I think, is that, like you said, you can be on calls all day. And then you realize like, oh my gosh, I didn't eat, or I didn't
Yeah.
even take a break. And so I am very conscious about trying to do that too. Like sometimes at lunchtime, like if it's nice outside, I'll just scoot out for a 30-minute walk to clear my head, to get a fresh, set of, and then when I come back, I'm refreshed and I'm ready to finish my day, the second half of the day.
Right.
But you do have to take those moments where you pull away and unplug a little bit and just clear your mind and give yourself some time to think.
Yeah, and that's just not for people who are working remotely. Obviously, we
Right.
represent clinicians that are in the field, and you can't necessarily just go home and walk outside. But we do, even in the clinical setting, we have opportunities to take breaks. Those are offered to us. We don't usually do that. I don't think we practice the
No, we
self-care
don't.
of eating meals. Or truly taking that time, and maybe there's somewhere that says like we're weak, or maybe not as much of a team player. But I would encourage any clinician listening to take that time. It's built in. It's
Yes.
built into your comp. But most importantly, we all have to disconnect, especially in the hospital space. I think you'd agree. It's a constant state of fight or flight. You're
Yes.
constantly living in a state of fight or flight, independent of what your role is. It is an up and a down, and up and a down. And just like you mentioned, go out and walk around your hospital campus, like physically leave your floor, or physically leave your office, or physically leave the bedside, walk outside, go sit in the cafeteria, disconnect, you probably can't turn your perfect serve off or whatever your pager system is, but do your best to truly disconnect.
Yeah. I mean, at my site, we always used to eat lunch together. As most of us would around, finish rounding, and admissions were slow kind of right around lunchtime. And we would all sit down and eat lunch together, which one gave us a break and gave us
Mhm.
nutrition, right, that we needed. But then also it helped us establish relationships with each other, because during that time we would not talk about patients. We would talk about like what was going on at home or
Oh, I
what
like
plans
that.
we had over the weekend. And so it would also give us a chance to get to know each other and build those relationships,
Hmm.
so that we did know each other outside of work as well. And, the next time we had lunch, oh, how did it go at the soccer game? Or, how was this that you were doing? And it really helped us also get to know each other more. And then at my old hospital, we used to have picnic tables like out back outside. So when it was nice outside, we would go outside and have our lunch, for 15, 20 minutes.
Mm.
Our pagers still worked, our phones were still
Hmm.
on.
Sure,
But,
sure.
we were eating outside and it felt like you were really getting a break, and we were in a
Getting
new
some
environment.
vitamin D. You know me and vitamin D.
Yeah.
I
Mine's
especially
always
this
low, so I need to get out there
always.
every day.
And you add this horrific winter. Sorry, Northeasterners, but it's been terrible here. Um, no vitamin D. It is nice. I will agree. You just jogged a couple memories of mine where I remember sitting outside and literally just like lifting my face to the sun and being like, like, I
Yeah.
don't want to go back in, but I did. And, things happen. I mentioned that I struggled with disconnecting, but also, my goal being as a leader to set the tone, even for things that I'm not good at, like not sending the emails late, not communicating with my teams late. So they didn't expect that they had to communicate back. Where's an area that you think you struggle? You've talked about what you do well. Where do you struggle in your work-life balance? Where's some area that you think you could improve on?
Yeah, I do think, I do still sometimes have that guilt, even though I feel like I'm, good about setting boundaries and having a routine. There are some days where I still feel that guilt, like that heavy weighing, I wake up at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and think, oh my gosh, like I need to get this done today. And so I do still struggle with some of that sometimes. And it's not necessarily more about like my to-do list. It's more of, I think, just sort of thinking about what I want to do, if that makes sense, like making decisions,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. So sometimes I'll
Sure.
kind of have something that I'm like, okay, this is a challenge we're having, and or we need to make a decision about something, which at our roles, like these are sometimes big decisions that we make. And so
Right.
sometimes
Right.
I will kind of ruminate over those things for a couple days, and it does take my time away from work in terms of doing that. Like I don't know that that's necessarily anything I'm ever going to be able to turn off, but I will
No,
oftentimes be thinking about those things, when I'm drying my hair in the morning or
sure.
whatever, and
No,
I
I
think
just
that's
think
just,
it's more of a demonstration that we're all human, and
yeah,
to me it just becomes awareness. We talk about what can we do to achieve optimal balance, whatever that looks like. So to me, it's just always refreshing to hear someone who's not like, hey, so do this and go take a walk and, go exercise, go do yoga. And then I go like, well, so they do everything right. And I feel this guilt because I'm like, I
yeah,
can't do that perfectly all the time. It's just nice to hear that we all struggle, even if we've got all the right things that, the right solutions. We're going to struggle here. And there's always something that we can improve on.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, to me too, I don't like things hanging over my head. Like I'm just not that. Like I like to get things done and I like to check my list off. I use
Sure.
OneNote where you can do the check marks, which I absolutely love. By the way, it's such a satisfying feeling to like put that check mark in and be like, oh, I'm done. And so,
Yeah.
if that list that's still pending is there for a while, that does weigh on me a little
Well,
bit. And I
sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you said checklist, and I was like yin and yang. This is April and I, because like she's queen of organization, and I thrive in dysfunction sometimes. But I do think we're talking about, what are things that can keep you like keep work-life balance? What are some recommendations? Organization, as much as I hate that word, being organized really
Yeah,
cuts time. And
it
when you're
does.
not, and you are, flying by the seat of your pants, or I'll do this and not, it doesn't have to be rigid, but having some organization I've found just allows me to have more time back.
Yeah.
Even though
No, it does.
sometimes organizing makes you feel like it takes more time to organize. At least that's what I tell myself. Like, it's going to take me so much time to organize this. Let me just do it all. and then
Yeah,
I,
but once it's there,
forget it
then
or I
it's
miss it.
organized, and then
Yeah,
you
I
just
know.
maintain it. It's not
People,
as bad
I
as you
love
think.
chaos.
The
That I
routine also
prefer to
helps
make it
me. Yeah,
happen.
making a routine also, and it's like little things. Like I do a load of laundry every morning. Like by the time my kids go to the
Did
bus
you say
stop, it's
laundry?
yes, I do a load of laundry
Oh,
every day,
geez.
every morning. So by the time my kids go to the bus stop, it's in the washer, and then by the time I'm ready for my first call, it's usually in the dryer. And it's so funny because my husband, he's a teacher, he's not home.
Uh-huh.
And so he doesn't realize that I do this. And so I said something the other day about, yeah, I do a little. He's like, you do a load of laundry every day, April. And I was like, I certainly do. Like, why do you think your clothes are always clean? And so,
That
but
just didn't do it itself?
no, it just doesn't do it itself. But having routines like that, like I plan my dinners ahead, for the I kind of know what I'm going to have each day. So I can put things in the crock pot, stuff like that, which I have the benefit of doing because I work at home. But I'll tell you, one of the things you ask what I struggle with, another thing I struggle with is delegating. Um,
Mm.
so that's something I've always struggled with is just sort of delegating tasks out. And I think I have gotten much better over the years. But that's something still that, delegating it out and then knowing it's going to get done on time and things like that. Sometimes that is a
Or
struggle for me.
trusting.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just trusting and having to
Right.
let go that you've given a task and you can't control
Right. Which we
what
work
you're
with
trying to
great teams.
control.
And so
Yeah,
it does get done,
absolutely.
but it's,
Yep.
that's just my personality is that I have very high expectations for myself. I can tend to be a perfectionist. And so delegating and knowing
What?
that it's going to, I know you wouldn't believe it, would you? But delegating and knowing that it's going to get done, but it might be a little different than I would have done it. And that's not just work related. It's just having the kids do the things at the house. Like they load the dishwasher
Sure.
different than I do. Right. So,
Yeah.
it's just things like that those are the
And what's
things I
worth
still
letting go of a
work
little
on.
bit,
Oh
Did you
yeah.
load it right? Did you?
You got to pick
Okay.
your
We'll
battles,
let it go.
Yeah. I mean, there was
I
a day that I maybe would have reloaded it, but now I just
Yeah,
let
I'm
it go
sure
and I
that
move
doesn't
on.
surprise me. I'm giggling because if you and I live together, you would say Alicia does laundry every day because I do, but it's usually the same load because I forgot that I I did the load and then I go down the next day and I was like, God, I didn't move it over to the dryer. So my current load, which is hilarious that you brought this up, has been washed 3 times, and you just reminded me that I rewashed it yesterday, and it's
Is
still
it still
sitting
in
in
the
the washer.
washer? Is it still in
Yeah,
the washer? Oh, see, my
yeah.
load for today is down in the dryer.
Mine's been in there probably since Sunday, if I'm being honest. And ladies and gentlemen, it's Thursday.
Thursday.
It's
That
a
is a lot of days that you
Thursday.
have rewashed this thing load.
Usually it's the kids saying, I can't find my shirt for da 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 da, or some sports shirt that's gonna be, they won't be able to play, and then it really puts some heat to me to figure out.
Mom, get it done.
I know. It's so pathetic, but folks, work-life balance. I'm just trying to be present with my kids. That's going to be my excuse right now.
That's
So,
the process.
I'm not as great as April, but or as organized. I am great in a different way, I'll say. But definitely, organization is an area I could certainly improve on.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun to talk about this topic. It's something I like a lot. But one thing before we go, there are
Sure.
some things from a leader perspective that we can do to try to help our teams. And so we've touched on a little bit of them already, but things like making sure you have a healthy culture, giving them opportunities to grow, when they're ready
Sure.
and things that they can, making sure that you have, comfortable office conditions if you are in an office, promoting opportunities for those social connections. Like I talked about, just having lunch with the team just went a long way because it felt like a true break, when we were all kind of sitting around talking about things other than work. And then having a flexible work environment when you can. So
Yep.
just some food for
I
thought for our listeners as they think about this.
And probably the third, fourth, fifth time you'll hear me say it is we drive the culture as leaders.
Yes.
We get to, our leaders I've had in the past drove a specific culture that made me think I had to work all the time. As leader now, as you as a leader, we get to say to our teams, we prioritize our work time, but we also prioritize our home time, set the pace, set the tone, allow for our clinicians to fall into that. And there was just one stat that I thought was interesting as we wrap this part up. As employers, data suggests that we're not even productive after 50 hours a week. So if we've got people who are working in 12, 15-hour days, we don't have productivity now. We might have a lot of work happening, but it's not necessarily productive. So it is something to think about. Like sometimes it's truly the adage of working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's awesome. If any of you guys out here have just even thoughts for other episodes, please feel free to reach out to us. We do have an email address that's oncallpodcast@soundphysicians.com, or you can certainly interact with us on social media. Our Instagram account is @OnCall with April and Alicia. And we'd absolutely love to hear from you. Love to hear show ideas. Love to hear any feedback that you have for our session.
Yeah, thanks. And, thanks all for listening. And until next time, you guys stay well and we'll stay on call.
We'll stay on call. Have a good one, guys.